And welcome everybody to this week's exciting episode.
Yeah!
Is it an exciting one, Josh?
It is.
I know you've been excited about this one all day.
I have been excited, I've been pumped, and I say it's the last week, isn't it, where I've been saying to you, we need to do this story. We need to cover it.
Yeah, that's very interesting, the outlay that you gave to me. So, shall we reveal what we're covering this week?
This week, we are doing Scottish folklore.
Ooh. All right, that's enough of that. Come on. What piece of fine Scottish folklore have you got for us today, then, Josh?
Today, my friend, we have got the story of Sawney Bean.
Sawney Bean.
This is the tale of Sawney Bean. He liked to kill and his wife was mean. So I think for people that haven't heard the tale of Sawney Bean, they're probably going to look it up afterwards, or they're going to be like me and go, that is the craziest story I've ever heard.
Yeah, and actually, I think we need to do a small disclaimer on this one,
We
don't
do
we?
Indeed. So I will also give another disclaimer when it gets to the bits that need another one.
But a parental guidance warning on this week's podcast. Definitely not suitable for young children.
Yes, I would say anyone under the age of maybe 15. Possibly, because it's just more for the gory details and murder and killings and other things that happen.
Yeah.
It's really not PG. So, disclaimer, don't let your children listen to this one. So, should we go into it?
Let's dive into it, mate. Let's dive into some Scottish folklore. Don't start that music again. Right.
So, I will just say, Alexander Sawney Bean is his name, and I thought I'd find out why he got the nickname Sawney. It's not. It's his middle name.
That is actually his name. Yeah.
Yeah. So Alexander Sawney Bean was born in East Lothian during the 16th century of Scotland. His father was a ditch digger and a hedge trimmer. Bean tried to take up the family trade, but quickly realised that he was not fit for this work.
Well, he couldn't dig holes.
Well, not as well as his father. So his father used to punish him.
You've no got that straight, son.
He just wasn't impressed. Like his dad was very disappointed in him. There was a bit of punishment and a bit of abuse. So
okay.
Yeah, it didn't go well.
Was his father like a single parent family, or was there mention of a mother?
I think his mother was around.
Yeah.
But the only thing I could really find him growing up was he just tried to carry on the family trade.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
It just wasn't for him. He got abused by his father and stuff, and he was like, I've had enough of this. So he ended up leaving home with his wife, she was allegedly a vicious woman named Black Agnes Douglas. Bean, who apparently shared his inclinations.
Hang on, her first name was actually Black. Oh,
yeah.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, no, that's what I found in the report. So, but during this, I'll refer to her as Agnes because otherwise it gets a bit weird. But no, her full name was Black Agnes Douglas, and she was accused of being a witch and using witchcraft, and this included conjuring demons.
Ooh.
So, one report said that they left home together, but then I read another one that straight after their marriage, they actually got exiled from the village because she was practicing witchcraft.
That would make sense.
They suspected her of being a witch, so they thought, we don't want this around us. Get this black magic out of here. So they were exiled from the village. So with nothing much left to do, they didn't really know which direction to go down. They didn't have jobs. It was just the two of them. A romantic couple. They needed to, set up base.
And they couldn't even dig a ditch between them.
They couldn't dig a ditch. So they began robbing people in the local village and surrounding towns and villages, taking whatever they could, with some reports stating that they would take everything from a victim, including their clothes, leaving them defenseless and naked.
Oh, nice.
So that's how it started.
Oh, that was just the start of it.
Yeah.
Start of some bad things to come.
Yeah. And if you think robbery is bad, cool. You wait.
Fair enough.
So after robbing a few people, they decided to step it up a level, and they turned to murder.
Right. So they weren't just beating people up and leaving them without any clothes on, penniless on the side of the road anymore. They were going the whole way.
They just decided we're going to rob them and then kill them. Why not?
Fair enough, yeah.
So one day after murdering one of their victims, they decided that it was dinner time.
Oh no, you can just see where this is going.
And they wanted to see what human flesh tasted like. They cannibalized their victim and roasted some body parts on an open fire and began eating human flesh for dinner. This was said to be Agnes's plan to eliminate all evidence, and bones left would be to look like animals.
And we're really good at doing these disclaimers as and when these things come up, eh?
Well, we've done a disclaimer at the start, so I'll do another one when it gets worse.
Straight into the cannibalism.
Oh, it gets worse. Yeah,
fair enough.
So it was actually Agnes's...
Yeah, let your kids listen to that bit. Just.
But it was actually Agnes's idea to start eating them to eliminate evidence, so they wouldn't get caught.
Nothing to do with witchcraft, though.
No. So I couldn't really find anything else about the witchcraft. It doesn't
Just
seem like
accusations and that.
Yeah, so I don't think she was actually a witch, but that was pretty much all I could find on it.
Fair
She
enough.
just got accused and exiled. So the couple realised they enjoyed this process of robbing, murdering, and then
Eating.
being cannibals. So they wanted to do this full time.
Well, it's a cheap way of life, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess so. So they found a coastal cave.
Cost of meat these days, I don't blame them.
Yeah, well, certain supermarket were using horses, weren't they? So,
Yeah.
So they actually found a coastal cave in, I hope I'm saying this right, Scottish people, I do apologise, Benane Head? Benane Head?
Banani Head?
It's
Something like
between
that,
Girvan and Ballantrae. I'm not good with these names. So anyway, the coastal cave in Benane Head, the cave was 200 yards, also 180 metres deep. The entrance was actually blocked by water during high tide, so the couple were able to live there undiscovered for 25 years.
Clever.
Yeah, very clever.
That is clever.
So, which is crazy because he couldn't dig a ditch, but he can work that out.
Yeah, you can find a hole at low tide.
So during these 25 years, Sawney and Agnes produced 6 daughters, 8 sons, 14 granddaughters, and 18 grandsons. And
They got busy.
you guessed it, the grandchildren, disclaimer, they were all products of incest.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of them as well, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. The clan reached, it was 48 members, I believe, if my math is correct, adding all that up at a quick second. 48 members in the clan, possibly 45. My maths isn't good. So, some of the names of the children, would you like to hear?
Go for it.
So you had Alexander Jr., Agnes Jr., Baked, as in baked bean, Pinto bean, and Flickader. No, there was actually no evidence of names.
Sure Alexander Sawney Bean's real name wasn't Father?
Father. With a glass of Chianti.
Yeah, why not? He was a cannibal as well. So.
Yeah. But no, there was actually no evidence of names. I couldn't find anything on it.
No.
It's just Agnes and Alexander.
I like Flickader.
Yeah, Flickader.
That's a good one.
That's a good disclaimer. So the clan of Beans would plan careful ambushes at nighttime to kidnap, kill, and dismember and eat their victims. They even tried boiling the human flesh and pickling leftovers in barrels to not waste anything of their victims. And they would discard the occasional body part to stage it as animal attacks, but some body parts would wash up ashore.
Oh, yeah, I imagine they probably would, yeah.
And they would also discard bones, because you can't really eat bones and stuff.
I know, but, I mean, back in those days, people used to make the most of what they got, you know, so they would be using every conceivable part of that body for whatever reason. They're like bones, they might whittle them down to use for like sewing needles to help with the clothing and stuff like that.
Yeah. They did actually use some
same as indigenous people do nowadays. If they kill an animal, they use all of that animal.
Yeah. And they did actually use the femur bones as like weapons and things.
Oh yeah,
Kind of
suppose,
carved them into sharp spikes.
Yeah, like
things.
axes and.
And eyes were a delicacy among the Bean clan.
Oh yeah, of course they were.
As the numbers of the Bean clan increased, I'm trying to add a little bit of lightheartedness to it because it's so dark.
Call them the Beanie Bunch.
Yeah, so as the numbers of the Beanie Bunch increased, the hunts would become more frequent. They actually became nocturnal, staying hidden and sleeping during the day and ambushing and terrorizing at night. The increasing number of missing people in the local towns created suspicion amongst the people. They conducted searches but failed to find the hideout of the Bean family.
Because they always went at high tide.
They did. They were very clever, very smart hiding. So this is interesting about it. So many innocent people were suspected and they were assaulted by the public, resulting in hangings. Many innkeepers were blamed as they were the last to see them.
Oh, yeah, no, I suppose, yeah.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy. Like, you're completely innocent. You're trying to run a pub. And the King's Horsemen or whoever, I don't know who does crimes back in those days.
Yeah, well,
the King's Guards. They would go into a pub and say, have you seen, these people that have vanished? Yes, they were here a few hours ago. Oh, well, it must have been him. And he's like, hang on.
Yeah, I just told you they were here. Yeah, they left.
I'm trying to help you. And then
I served them a beer, they drank it, they left.
Yeah, but because the Bean clan was so clever, these innocent people were all getting hanged. And that's the word, hanged?
And yet the murderings were still carrying on.
Yeah. So they were all scratching their head. And this is where the demise of the Bean clan starts happening. So, essentially, for many years...
25
years, this was going on. Many people...
We're only 12 minutes into the podcast and we're already coming to the demise.
Well, yeah. It's all right, we'll stretch out a bit. Yeah, so it's very interesting that they managed to do this for 25 years.
Yeah.
And in a cave. And what I was saying to you before we started recording... was it only just dawned on me that they would know nothing of the outside world in a way.
The children certainly wouldn't.
No.
The children and grandchildren, if they born and raised through incest in a cave and lived most of their nights nocturnally, they would have no social structures other than between themselves. Yeah, they'd have no life experience other than what they'd been taught by their wicked parents.
Yeah.
Their way of life, the incest, the murder, the cannibalism would have been completely normal to them. They just thought everybody does it.
Yeah, and it's baffling to me because it's the
sad,
same.
Isn't it?
It is sad, and it's in some ways it kind of parallels to prison in a way.
Yeah.
With kind of less things to do, I suppose. But that's why I think prison is the worst place in the world for someone like me. Like, I would hate it there.
You wouldn't last a day.
No, I'm too pretty for prison, man. There's no way. So this is the demise of the Beans. So one night, the Bean clan,
their pod.
the Bean clan saw a couple on horseback who were coming back from a local village fair. The Bean clan decided these are easy pickings. We're going to get these. They're unsuspecting. They've had a few grogs. They've had a few glasses.
A few whiskies.
Yeah, a few whiskies. Bit of haggis. And they thought, right, we're going to go for this. Now, I should just mention, they didn't have a lot of morals. The Bean.
Well, no.
The Bean clan. No. Surprisingly, no, they didn't have a lot of morals.
They were big on their morals. What do you mean? They never killed one of their own or cannibalised their own children?
No. But one thing they did do, which I couldn't find a reasoning for it, but they had a rule where only women could attack women and men could attack men.
Okay, so kind of make it a fair fight, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think that must be the only explanation I could maybe think of or find was to make it a fair fight, or maybe it was also the thrill of hunting and things. So if they maybe managed to start running, or maybe they got a buzz off it, or I couldn't tell. But yeah, it was odd that they never had a crossover. It was always women and women, men and men. So the wife was easily killed.
Right.
And the women cut her throat and started sucking the blood while she was still alive. Oh, disclaimer.
Disclaimer.
Vampirism
as well now.
This is the bit that gets quite gory. So, so the women, they pounced on her, got her off the horse. They slit her throat instantly, started sucking the blood while she's alive, trying to kick and scream.
Gurgling away.
They then cut open her torso and began eating her raw intestines as she's still alive on the ground. So
Right, okay.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that's very nutritious or easy to eat, to be honest.
And you will see later on that they're no longer human, really, in a way. They're more beasts.
True troglodytes.
Yeah, they really are troglodytes.
Every sense of the word.
Yeah, I'm going to stop calling my wife a troglodyte from now on.
That's probably a good idea, mate, yeah.
Because these are actual troglodytes, and they're more like animals at this stage. They're just getting... And it's not like they weren't getting food either. That's the weird thing. There was thousands of bodies and victims involved in this story, and they were doing it so frequent, there wasn't a lack of food. But to be able to eat someone's intestines raw while they're alive, it's another level. It is. Because you would suggest... That would suggest...
You're also eating whatever they ate.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, well, you'd be very disappointed if they spent all day eating mud or worms or something. But
I suppose that's the only way they're going to get a bit of pumpkin pie, isn't it? So.
Yeah, so the husband, however, he put up a fight. So he was actually an established swordsman.
Oh, right, okay.
But he also had a pistol.
Oh.
So this is where the Bean clan messed up. So the husband...
They didn't have a pistol.
No, they did not. They had femur bones for weapons. Yeah. So
bare teeth.
Yeah. So the husband put up a fight, and before he was killed, several passers-by, also from the village fair on horseback, were riding through the same area to get home or go to the pub to see the innkeeper. And
accuse him of killing people. Yeah.
Yeah. And they arrived at the exact spot where this husband was fending off, and the Beans had to retreat quickly, leaving the dead body of the wife behind.
Oh, right. Unsuccessful kill. Well, it was a successful kill, but an unsuccessful scavenge.
Yes. And it began to unravel for the Beans here, because you've got a distraught husband with a dead wife. So this is the first...
And he could possibly he's probably the first person to actually be able to identify...
Yeah, he is.
...who's been doing all these murders, isn't he?
Yes, I should have written that note down. Very well said, Pirate. Yeah, he was the first person in 25 years to see the Bean clan face to face. So
and live.
And live, yeah. So this was the first evidence of the actual existence of the Sawney Bean clan. Oh. They took the surviving husband, the villagers, they all got him on the horse.
Oh, right, not the Beans.
No, not the Beans,
right.
no. The villagers that arrived at the spot and broke up the carnage that was happening, they picked up the surviving husband and they took him to the local magistrate, who they all informed of the experience. They all told what had happened.
Yeah.
And also, this evidence was presented to King James. Well, I'm guessing he would have heard about it from the magistrate.
Yeah, from the barons and whatnot. It would have been, passed through. Word spreads, doesn't it?
Yeah, back in those days, when you hear old folklore stories and things and villages, it always seems to me that, like, everyone's your next-door neighbour. Like, it doesn't seem feasible in my mind that people would travel hundreds of miles on horseback and know exactly where to go without a sat-nav and things. I can't wrap my head around it. Obviously, I know that's where evolution has taken us, but I just can't wrap my head around that. If you gave me a horse and was like, we're going to drop you off here and then
you got
try
to
and
find
find
your
your
way
way
home.
back, I'd be like, right, no, I'm eating the horse.
You'd be useless, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would.
You'd be like, I know I can navigate by stars. Which stars?
I'd be saying, right.
Bloody hell, it's cloudy.
I'll be saying, right, horse, I'm following you.
You go where you want.
Yeah. So with the evidence and the story of the surviving victim, King James VI decided to lead a search party. He gathered 400 men and several bloodhounds. And thanks to the bloodhounds, they soon found the cave which had previously been overlooked.
Yeah, bloodhounds will do that.
Yeah. And are they called bloodhounds because they sniff blood?
Well, technically, I guess yes. But they've just got such a good sense of smell that they've always been used to, track things down. Yeah, blood probably would have been one of the things that they'd train the dogs to be sensitive to.
Does it make sense? Because they're not red or anything. So.
Obviously, you've got to train a dog to search for what you want to find.
Mm. Yeah.
So the best way to do that is with smell. Blood is going to have a very distinctive smell, particularly to an animal or a dog. Probably, yeah.
Oh, that makes sense. So thanks to the bloodhounds, they soon found the... Oh, I've read that bit.
Yeah.
That's the first mess up of the podcast. So upon entering the cave by torchlight, the searchers found the Bean clan surrounded by human remains. Bodies were hanging from the walls, barrels filled with limbs, and piles of stolen heirlooms and jewellery were also found. So the Bean family surrendered immediately without a fight. They were caught.
Oh, fair enough. Well, I suppose, 400 soldiers turn up. You're not going to fend off from that, are you?
Yeah.
When you're already cornered in a cave, there's, you've only got 180 metres of place to retreat to, haven't you?
That's true. And, well, I imagine, would there have been, because I know some caves, there's exits and things, isn't there? It's not just...
Multiple exits, Well, I don't know about their particular cave.
It'd be interesting to find out, because I was thinking with high tide, even if the water kind of covers it, they would have to go in the cave and up or somewhere.
Well, caves can go up and down and all sorts, can't they,
So they didn't put up a fight whatsoever. They surrendered. Now, this is what's interesting, because there's actually 2 accounts of what happened to the Bean clan after they got caught. So, I'll give you the boring one first, shall I?
Yeah, we'll leave the exciting one to the end,
Okay, well, this is the one that's considered, it's possible, but it's not the version that a lot of people go with, or the folklore that follows, if you know what I mean. So, the search party placed gunpowder at the entrance of the cave, where a fire was started, and the Bean clan suffocated to death, and the searchers were outside with guns drawn, in case they tried to escape the cave and escape their fate. So that is one story that goes with the Bean clan. So they found him in the cave, retreated, kept him in the cave, and then basically set it on
suffocated
fire.
him with smoke.
Yeah, which isn't, the most exciting of stories.
No.
And also, I kind of feel like justice wasn't served in that.
No, really wasn't.
So here's the one with justice.
Right.
This is the story that is reported the most. That is, it's kind of, considered this part of the folklore, that this is what actually happened.
Part of history.
Yeah. So they were taken in chains to the Tolbooth jail in Edinburgh, then transferred to Glasgow, where they were promptly executed without trial, as at this point people didn't see them as humans but as monsters or demons.
Yeah, fair enough.
So Sawney and all the men of the family had their genitals cut off and thrown into fires, hands and feet severed, which resulted in them bleeding to death.
Yeah, it would do, yeah.
And the women would... Actually, I've kind of gone ahead there a little bit. So Sawney's last words after his genitals were cut off and he was bleeding to death.
Give me my balls back.
I wish it was that. I swear I've heard this quote before, but he said, "It isn't over, it will never be over."
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
And that was his last dying words. So the women, after watching all their men die, Agnes and the children included, were tied to stakes and burned alive.
As witches.
Yeah. So it kind of comes full circle.
Yeah.
Now.
Nice.
There is a side story.
Ooh.
So there is rumours this hasn't been confirmed. No one's around anymore to confirm this. But I read a side story.
Gollum dobbed them in.
Gollum. Gollum that said that there was a side story to this. And it states that one of the daughters actually escaped the clan early on and moved to Girvan. She planted a jewel tree, D-U-L-E, a jewel tree, in the area where she lived. When the Bean family were captured, the daughter's identity was kind of revealed. Yeah. I don't know how they found out that she used to be part of it. And
visually similar, I would imagine.
Yeah, maybe.
From the incest can produce some quite like.
She's got a hunchback.
Exactly. Yeah.
Just like, I wasn't part of the clan.
Royal family of France all had massive chins, didn't they?
Crimson chin.
Yeah.
So the villagers hanged her from the same tree that she'd planted, and this came to be called the hairy tree.
Was it hairy?
Apparently it looked hairy.
Oh, okay.
But I feel a little bit bad for this one because she tried to escape.
She wanted to, get away from it, lead a justifiable life, settle down, find a nice husband that wasn't her brother, and just, try and live a more normal life.
And her legacy, she will forever be known as the Hairy Bean.
Disclaimer.
Yeah. The bean was hung from the hairy tree, and generally in some of the things they describe her as the hairy bean because she was the one that stood out. She escaped. And that's the tale of Alexander Sawney Bean, the leader of a 48-member incestuous murdering cannibalistic family that had over 1,000 victims.
Wow.
And that is the story. So I should just go into a little few tidbits and things afterwards. Obviously, pop culture's coming. Yeah, I'll save that.
It's got to, hasn't it? This has been your episode.
So some people think that this story is 100% true. It's depicted and written down in several things, scrolls, books, through word of mouth over the years. Others say it's just a myth, and some say this folklore derives from a similar story of Christy Cleek. Now, Christy Cleek was a legendary Scottish cannibal from centuries before in the year 1340. Now, there was a great famine at this time, and he was part of a group of scavengers. So when one of the scavengers died, Christy, who was a trained butcher, started cutting up the body and fed this to his companion.
Okay.
So when the guy died of natural starvation because of the famine, and he just thought, waste not, want not, hacked him and fed him.
This would have been this Christy Cleek, the story of Christy Cleek.
Yes.
This one would have been not too long after the story of William Wallace. And that,
yeah.
And after Wallace died, obviously, Robert Le Bruce carried on the Scottish uprising. So that would be the explanation for the famine.
Yes, yeah. Because I think Braveheart, William Wallace, sorry, not Braveheart, that's not his name. William Wallace died in 1309, I believe.
Yeah.
So this would have been,
30 years later. So, it would have been part of the same war, the same uprising, So, I can imagine there probably would have been famine, and, maybe they did get desperate enough.
Yeah. So some people think that the story of Sawney Bean comes from this.
From that,
And it's not its
own
fable.
No, because you said it was 1600s, was it?
Yeah, 16th century, yeah.
Oh, 16th century, so 1500s, So still like a couple of hundred years later.
Yeah, but the interesting thing about Christy Cleek is he escaped and was never caught and just lived with a new name.
Oh, right.
So, but it's a very similar story. He's got the group of scavengers, not his own incestuous family, but the comparisons are there. So some people think that. And then also, he could have come from the story of Sandy Bain, which sounds very similar.
Yeah.
And Sandy Bain was the murderer who had been seen eating live cats in the village.
Live cats?
Yeah. He used to eat live
Good
cats.
luck eating a live cat. I'm sorry, I'm calling BS on that one.
I just thought I'd have
You're
to.
trying to pick up a cat that ain't yours. You're getting scratched to death, mate. Try and bite it. Crikey. No, it's not happening.
No, it's not. But no, they were the only two kind of other similar stories I could find that people think they might have come from that story, but a lot of people think that it is. I say a lot of people, historians think that this story is true.
Okay.
So now I'm moving on to the pop culture references.
Pop culture.
I don't have many for this one.
Disclaimer.
So the biggest one that a lot of people would have heard of is Wes Craven. He used Sawney Bean as the inspiration for his film The Hills Have Eyes.
Oh, right, yeah. I suppose, because that was cannibals, wasn't it?
Yeah. And fun fact, when I told my wife that, she said The Hills Have Eyes was the first horror film that actually made her feel ill and scared.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she really didn't like it, and she won't watch it again.
I don't blame her.
No. So this one, shout out to my nerds out there.
Yeah?
So if anyone's into anime, there'll be a few people. So Japanese anime and manga, Attack on Titan. It's very popular.
That's a big one. Yeah.
So there's a tale of a cannibalistic clan who captured 2 titans, and they were named Sawney and Bean.
Oh, were they?
The 2 titans.
Oh, fair play.
So I thought that was a cool little reference in there. There is a comic book series called Hack Slash, and the main character, Vlad, the Meat Man Killer, is eventually revealed to be a descendant of Sawney Bean in the comics.
Fair play.
So I thought, again, that's worth mentioning.
Yeah.
This one is pretty cool. So there's a children's book called The Day I Swapped My Dad for 2 Goldfish. And
right.
You guessed it, the 2 goldfish are called Sawney and Beanie.
Right.
And the last one here that I've got, which I showed you the song at work. I think it's a brilliant song. So if anyone wants to go on Spotify, YouTube, whatever, it's a German folk metal band called Vogelfrey.
Yeah.
And they have an album called Titanium and a song called Sawney Bean. And it basically summarizes everything I've said today into a great little folk song. And it's worth a listen. It's
not so much folk, though, is it?
Well, it's
like the first 30 seconds was kind of folk, and then it suddenly just...
kind of. It's like,
it was good. I enjoyed it, but, very not folk.
Yeah. But yeah, it just kind of recounts what I've gone through in song form. So that is the horrific, disgusting tale of Sawney Bean.
That was the story of Sawney Bean.
He loved to kill and his wife was mean.
Yeah, we've had this song stuck in our head all day.
And the Scottish people don't mind us doing our terrible accents because we had a comment saying...
Yes, we did have a comment from Scottish Phil who said, your Scottish accents are so bad they cannot possibly be classified as offensive.
Which is fair.
We'll take that.
Yeah, so that gives us the right to just carry on doing terrible accents.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so I don't know what you want to give that on the paranormality scale and how you're going to rate it.
Well, paranormal-wise, not really paranormal, but
a bit of witch.
Bit of witchcraft in there, potentially. Mm-hmm. I like the story because when you first said to me, you were like, oh, I'd really like to do this, but it'd be more natural for a true crime podcast to do it. And then we started looking into it, and with all the cannibalism, the witchcraft, and all that sort of thing, nocturnal hunting and that, like it just seemed like it was right for us, didn't it? Yeah. Rather than giving it to a true crime podcast. Yeah. Who might cover it anyway, but I like it. It's very dark.
It's very dark.
Very dark.
A few disclaimers in there.
But the believability of it, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Because there's by this point, hundreds of years later, there's no sort of proof of it, is there? It is, like you say, just folklore. These stories have been handed down through word of mouth, from generation to generation. Mm-hmm. No one really knows if it's true or not.
Yeah. It's a tough one.
It is a tough one. I'm going to go 8.
Oh, that's fair.
0.3.
That's fair. I thought you were going to go lower.
Did you?
Yeah. So I'm very pleased with that 8.3.
8.3, I'll give it, yeah.
I was actually going to give it a 7.9.
Are we?
Because I like the story, but there's not that much to it other than the craziness of murder and, like we say, it should be a true crime episode, really.
I was torn between giving it a 7 point something and an 8 point something, but yeah, I'm going to stick with 8.3. That would give us an average of 8.1, so I think that's fair.
Yeah. All right, I like that.
Yeah.
And that's the tale of Sawney Bean.
Yeah. So if you've got a scrawny bean, write in.
If you like beans in all varieties, runner beans, green beans.
Fava
please.
beans.
Fava beans, yeah. Baked beans, flickered beans. Just let us know.
Let us know. If you're troubled by cannibals at night, let us know. Write in the comments. You can find us at paranormality.uk@gmail.com for an email address. You can always comment on our YouTube. We love people to comment on our YouTube. It helps the algorithm so much. You can find us on TikTok. You can find us on Instagram. And you can find us at our favourite place, Discord.
Yes.
And we'd love more people to come and join Discord. So please do come and find us there, because we do try and do things to make that a little bit more fun, don't we?
Yeah.
Have a little bit of a laugh and a joke.
I need to join Discord a bit more. So
yeah, you kind of often forget about it.
I do, so apologies to people that ask me questions and things on there. And then, like 2 weeks later, I'll go, oh yeah, I need to go on Discord.
Yeah, when I've reminded you.
Yeah, I do apologise. I'll try and get better.
So, we do have a live stream coming up. So be there for that on the 29th of October. Probably around about 2 p.m. afternoon, Sunday the 29th of October. Just 2 days before Halloween. And if you're listening to this after Halloween, if you're going through a backlog of episodes, then definitely join the Discord, because if we're going to carry on doing live streams or anything like that, that's where it's going to be announced. I'm not going to do it every week on the podcast because of this reason. People might listen to this 2 years from now.
Yeah, good point.
But anyway, so we hope to see you there. And until then, I've been Pirate.
I'm Josh.
And this has been Paranormality UK. Ta-ta.
Ta-ta. This is the tale of Sawney Bean.